Welcome to Fresh Dialogues. I'm Alison Van Diggelen. Today I'm interviewing Robert Ballard, the ocean explorer and discoverer of the Titanic. Thanks for joining us. Dr. Ballard,
Yes,
I want to
ma'am.
thank you very much for being on Fresh
Pleasure.
Dialogues today.
Pleasure.
A question came up last night about global warming, and you
Yeah.
had a two-prong answer. Can you explain what you meant by that? You said you're not worried about the planet, but
I'm
you
not
are
worried about
worried.
Earth. Yeah, Earth, there's been times in the Earth history, in the Cretaceous, for example, 90 million years ago, when it was a lot warmer than it is now. There was no glaciers. It wasn't an ice cube on the planet. Sea level was much higher. So we're just the latest bad thing maybe that's happening to the Earth. So I'm not really worried about the Earth
But
surviving.
what about mankind?
I worry about mankind. It's sort of like sometimes I see this tombstone that says the human race came and went, but it was politically correct. And as a scientist, I'm not politically correct. My job is not to be politically correct. My job is to call it as I see it. And I see that the biggest problem the planet is having, or the human race is having, is too many of us. You can't just have uncontrolled population growth. And then to take that population growth and multiply it times our footprint. Everyone wants to be an American. That would be the worst thing in the world.
Yes.
If everyone emulated us because we are so consumptive.
Yes.
And so I think it's an important thing for Americans to do is to drop their footprint. And I think
You're talking specifically about the carbon footprint.
Exactly.
Right. So are you saying that there is a human element to global warming? We have
Absolutely. I mean, we're in a natural cycle. I mean, but the real argument is how much of this is a natural cycle and how much is it a human additive? Well, hey, folks, it's both. Like whenever you have a tremendous controversy, both sides tend to be right and wrong. You do have the natural interglacial warming that we're experiencing, but then you're increasing the severity of it with human footprint. And the concern I think most people have is, well, we can't do much about the natural cycle, but we can do a lot about the human cycle. And I think what people are worried about is if you steepen it too much, evolution can't keep up and you get extinction.
Right.
You don't have adaptation to change, you have extinction.
Right.
And I think that's what people are really worried about.
So
that
do you
we're
feel like
reducing extinction.
Do you feel like Al Gore that there's an urgent impetus for us as Americans to do
Well,
something?
if you want to know the truth, it's too late. Okay. All the ice is going to melt. There's a lag, and it's already in the system. And in fact, people don't want to say that because they still want people to change their way. But when it comes to glaciers and polar regions, it's going to melt.
So
Sea level's going to come up.
So are you saying we should do nothing?
No, I'm not. But I was taught, when in doubt, try the truth. Or, it's never too late to change your ways. I'm not so worried about warming. Because that's going to happen, and it's happening. I'm worried about disease. I'm more worried about pandemics. I worry more about that than sea level rising. At least we can walk inland, okay. But I'm more worried about
Do you think that's
the
the
spread
greater
of
threat?
disease.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the bigger threat.
Yes. And what are your views on alternative energy? I mean, the ocean, as you've
Oh,
pointed out, is over
I'm
70%.
totally.
What about harnessing that power? Wave energy?
As an American, I'm more pro alternative energy because it so affects our relationship with other countries than it does, economic impact. I don't like being dependent upon oil that's controlled by countries that don't like us.
Right.
So I'm more
energy
worried
independence.
I'm more concerned about that than I am, moving away from fossil fuel to wind energy or solar energy. I'm more worried about how it affects our foreign policy. And so that's where I come down more on that concern than reducing our carbon footprint.
Right. What about wave energy?
Wave energy is a lot harder. I'm actually very pro-nuclear. I thought that the 3 Mile Island calamity was an absolute disaster, a disaster for our country, because I'm very pro-nuclear energy. I think it's safe. I think it can be done wisely. I mean, I envy what France is doing. I think they're up to 90% now.
Yes, it's a very
So I'm
high
a very
percentage.
pro, but because of that horrible tragedy and how it frightened people, and then the media added to that fear, and
yes.
I was a little upset with that,
Yes.
of hyping it, which media has a wonderful capability of doing, that we lost a generation of bringing more and more nuclear power online.
Right. Well, Dr. Ballard,
Thank
I
you.
really appreciate you taking the time. Thanks for joining us on Fresh Dialogues. For more exclusive interviews, check out freshdialogues.com.